There's a strange kind of person in this world, the one who quietly pulls away without making a sound. They don't explode, they don't complain, they don't create scenes. They just begin to disappear in small, almost invisible ways, ignoring messages, slipping out of conversations, choosing silence instead of effort. Most people think they're rude or distant, but the truth is far more complicated. They feel everything too deeply. Every tone, every shift in expression, every hidden intention hits them like a wave. And when you live with that kind of sensitivity, distance stops feeling like avoidance and starts feeling like protection. In this video, we're stepping inside the mind of the people who secretly hate everyone, not out of anger, but out of exhaustion, awareness, and a need to protect the parts of themselves no one ever sees. There's a quiet moment between breaths when some people realize they'd rather be a spectator of life than a player in it. It's a strange kind of stillness, heavy, but not empty, like the air itself is waiting for you to decide who you're going to be next. It appears in those in-between spaces. The pause before you walk into a room, the second after someone calls your name, the hesitation when your hand lingers on a door handle and some small voice inside whispers, "Do I really want to go in?" For some people, entering a conversation feels less like joining the world and more like stepping onto a stage they never auditioned for. Every smile feels practiced, every response feels measured, every interaction feels like a slight shift away from their real self. It's not hatred, it's not rebellion. It's a subtle negotiation with their own identity, deciding which parts to soften, which truths to hide, which edges to smooth out just to exist comfortably around others, and that negotiation, repeated quietly over years, becomes exhausting. So they learn to keep a little distance. Not because people are terrible, but because being around them demands an invisible cost: energy, safety, fragments of authenticity they're tired of giving away. Distance becomes easier than performance. Silence becomes lighter than expectation. And being alone becomes more honest than pretending they're comfortable in spaces that ask them to be someone they're not. Imagine living with a brain that treats every interaction like 1,000 tiny alarms going off at once. For some people, the world never arrives in simple, quiet layers. It comes all at once: tones inside voices, emotions behind expressions, tension hiding in someone's posture, meanings tucked between words. What others overlook, they absorb instantly, automatically, without choice. Their mind is tuned too sharply, like an antenna catching signals no one else even knows exist. A simple conversation becomes a storm of information. A shift in someone's eyes, a hesitation in their breath, a slight drop in warmth, all of it registers, all of it matters, all of it demands interpretation. And while the world calls it being too sensitive, for them it's simply the way their mind works. Not a disorder, not a flaw, just a wiring that turns ordinary moments into emotional noise. Chaos doesn't just irritate them, it invades them. It pushes into their inner world, altering their mood, their balance, their mental climate. Where others walk casually, they are constantly doing silent calculations. Was that annoyance? Did I say something wrong? Is someone uncomfortable? Should I pull back? And because this processing happens beneath the surface, no one sees the effort. No one sees how much energy it drains. Social situations feel like standing under bright, unforgiving lights after living in the soft glow of a candle. Everything too sharp, too loud, too overwhelming. So they choose a small distance, a buffer, a little space where the world cannot crash into them all at once. Not because they dislike people, but because they need room to breathe, think, and steady themselves again. It's not avoidance, it's protection. A quiet way of keeping their inner world from drowning in the noise of everyone else's. Distance can grow from the smallest wounds, the quiet ones no one notices. Not one big heartbreak, but many subtle disappointments collected over time. The moments where someone's kindness felt conditional. The conversations where honesty was punished instead of heard. The trust that was given softly but never returned with the same sincerity. These experiences don't break a person all at once. They slowly teach them a lesson. Closeness comes with risk. So a shield forms, gently, almost unconsciously. Not a wall of anger, but a layer of caution. They begin to protect themselves in ways others misinterpret. They read people quickly now, a tone shift, a forced smile, a hint of inconsistency, and their instinct is to step back before anything can hurt again. It's not rejection. It's not bitterness. It's a quiet calculation born from experience. To the outside world, this distance looks like coldness. But inside, it's tenderness being guarded carefully. It's a heart that still feels deeply but refuses to bleed for the wrong people. They're not closing themselves off because they lack emotion. They're doing it because they have too much of it. And they know how easily it can be misused. They don't hate people. They hate the performance people are expected to give. There's a difference. The world loves small talk, polite smiles, practiced reactions, but for some individuals, all of that feels like wearing someone else's skin. They don't enjoy conversations that skim the surface, where everyone speaks but no one truly says anything. They crave depth, honesty, presence, the kind of connection where silence isn't awkward. It's understood. A small talk feels like noise to them. Politeness feels like currency. Social niceties feel like roles they never agreed to play. And when every interaction feels like acting, the desire to step back becomes natural. They'd rather have one raw, honest hour with someone than 100 hours of empty words. They'd rather sit with a person's truth than their performance, because the world often operates on scripts and personas. They quietly drift toward solitude, not out of hatred, but preference. In their own space, they don't have to rehearse. They don't have to edit themselves. They don't have to dilute their thoughts or shrink their depth. Their silence feels like home, not a mistake. This isn't misanthropy. It's taste. It's choosing meaning over noise, authenticity over performance, depth over the superficial exchanges the world so often mistakes for connection. Their mind rehearses conversations long before they ever happen, as if every interaction needs a script just to feel safe. They imagine the tone, the questions, the expectations, the possible misunderstandings. All of it plays out in their head before a single word is spoken. By the time they finally step into the moment, they've already spent energy most people don't even realize they're using. They've edited their reactions, softened their edges, hidden their vulnerabilities, and chosen the safest version of themselves to present. This quiet preparation is invisible to everyone else, but it drains them deeply. And when the world wonders why they get tired so easily, why socializing feels heavy, it's because the real work began long before anyone arrived. Yet despite this exhaustion, their inner world is vibrant. Their solitude isn't empty, it's alive. It's filled with thoughts that breathe, memories that matter, reflections that comfort them. It's a place where they don't need to translate themselves or perform for anyone. Their inner world becomes a home, a sanctuary where everything moves at their pace. So when someone asks them to socialize, they're not choosing between people and being alone. They're choosing between protecting a space that nourishes them or stepping into a space that might drain them. And most days, keeping their inner ecosystem undisturbed feels like the wiser choice. Not because they dislike others, but because preserving their peace feels more important than pleasing anyone else. They push people away not because they feel nothing, but because they feel everything so deeply that not everyone can handle the weight of it. This is the part most people never see. The quiet ones, the distant ones, the ones who seem uninterested. They often carry a longing for a connection that runs far deeper than the average person's. They want closeness, but not the kind that demands pieces of them as a price. They want presence that doesn't require performance, silence that isn't judged, honesty that isn't punished, but the world rarely offers that kind of space. Most interactions come with expectations, noise, pressure, and unspoken emotional costs. So they begin to choose differently. They start protecting their energy, not by shutting everyone out, but by letting only a few in. A very small circle, built not from bitterness, but from discernment. Only the people who feel safe, steady, and genuine make it through. With those few, they are entirely different. They become warm, attentive, deeply loyal in a way that surprises anyone who has only seen their distance. Their softness shows. Their humor appears. Their depth unfolds naturally. But before trust builds, they appear guarded. To the outside world, that caution looks like indifference. In reality, it's self-protection, a careful guarding of a heart that feels too intensely. A mind that notices too much, an inner world that can be shaken by the smallest change. They aren't cold. They're careful. They aren't detached. They're discerning. And what looks like distance is often just a quiet hope that someday, someone will understand them without needing them to explain every part of who they are. What they really want is not distance forever, but a different kind of closeness, one that feels softer, slower, and truer than anything they've known before. People assume avoidance means they've given up, but in reality it's a temporary shelter. A place they retreat to while they wait for the world to become gentle enough to re-enter. They're not hiding because they're broken. They're hiding because they've learned that rushing into connection often leads to wounds. They're tired of carrying trust doesn't return to them in big moments. It returns through small consistencies, a steady tone, a patient presence, someone who doesn't push, demand, or question their quiet. Someone who shows, simply through being there, that connection doesn't have to hurt. Slowly, they begin to examine the emotional rules they once lived by. Rules built from old pain, old misunderstandings, old fears. And they start to wonder, do these protections still serve me, or are they keeping me from the softness I want? With time, and only with time, they take small risks. They open the door a little wider. They let someone see a little deeper. They allow themselves to be known without feeling exposed. And when the right person enters, someone calm, steady, and safe, something shifts inside them. Their silence no longer feels like distance. It begins to feel like a shared space. Their solitude doesn't disappear. It expands to include someone who understands its language. Closeness stops feeling like a threat and starts feeling like rest. In the end, this was never about hating people. It was about guarding a fragile inner world until they found someone who knew how to hold it gently. All they ever wanted was connection that didn't cost them pieces of themselves, connection that felt like peace instead of performance, safety instead of strain, truth instead of survival. And when they finally meet someone who offers that, the walls they built don't fall, they simply open, quietly, naturally. The way a closed flower opens to the morning light, there's a quiet hope tucked inside all of this, a hope that someone will knock gently, stay patiently, and prove that not everyone drains energy. Some people return it. If you felt yourself in any part of this, remember you're not difficult, you're not distant, you're not wrong. You're sensitive in a world that rarely slows down enough to notice sensitivity. You're deep in a world that often rewards the shallow. You aren't broken, you're wired to feel more, see more, understand more. And if someone in your life moves through the world this way, don't mistake their silence for rejection. Don't misunderstand their distance as disinterest. They're not pushing you away. They're protecting the parts of themselves that took years to rebuild. Be gentle with them. Be patient with them. Be the calm presence they don't have to prepare for or perform around. Because sometimes all it takes is one steady person to show them that connection can feel like comfort, not cost, and that closeness, when safe, is something their heart has been waiting for all along.